Welcome back to another episode. Before the hero figures out how to get past the climax and arrive at the story's resolution, there is typically a time of crisis in novels and movies. A all-is-lost moment occurs frequently when it appears that the hero has failed miserably. Consider Khan activating the Genesis device in The Wrath of Khan, Mathesar being tortured in Galaxy Quest, or Fantasia going missing in The Never-Ending Story. This episode is exactly that. In The Eye, which takes a break before the season finale, all of our main characters experience a dark night of the soul after building up to a significant advancement in the action in the previous episode. The Harfoots have expelled the stranger, probably Gandalf, from their group and had all of their possessions destroyed by our new, silent character, the Dweller, who is most likely Sauron. The Numenors and the Southlanders are counting their losses following the catastrophic eruption of Mount Doom. Durin and Elrond are dealing with Durin III's opposition to his plan to save the elves by mining Mithril, and Durin. As we approach the final few episodes of the season, the pace has unquestionably accelerated. The Southlands have been destroyed, and Emriel is now blind as a result of Mount Doom's eruption. A Balrog has awoken as a result of Durin and Elrond's attempts to preserve the elves, and the Harfoots appear destined to starve. As we approach the first season finale, the storyline is working hard to make up for a really slow start to the season. However, Harfoot Sadoc Burrow's neck-worn ring, which resembles the one ring that Frodo would later wear, remains the closest thing to a genuine ring we've seen on the program. Possibly next week. The majority of the characters' destinies are known, hence the series nevertheless unavoidably bears the stigma of the prequel. Because we are aware of Isildur's fate and Galadriel's apparent immunity to volcanic explosions, we are unable to empathize with Elendil's concern for them. Although Bronwyn, Arondir, and Theo are all new characters, they are unlikely to perish either because they are the only three Southlands characters we are following apart from Halbrand. This is because there are no red shirts remaining in their plot. As opposed to poor old Antimo, the comic in Isildur's crew, whose demise was sealed the instant he declared he'd had enough of fighting in the previous episode. Antimo, rest in peace. We will miss your lighthearted moments. Thank heavens Disa and Durin are still around since they are the only characters on the program who can effectively blend fun and seriousness. The least amount of their plot is developed in this episode, although it does end with a horrifying picture. The series has used references to The Lord of the Rings or nostalgia for Peter Jackson's film's finest in the scene where the Balrog awakens. Additionally, even if you are unfamiliar with The Lord of the Rings, it is a frightening image, so that contributes to how effectively it works. We're lucky to still have Disa and Durin because they are the only characters on the program who can effectively blend humor with seriousness. The least amount of progress is made in their tale in this episode, but it does result in a horrifying vision. The scene in which the Balrog awakens represents the best use of nostalgia for the Peter Jackson films or general allusions to The Lord of the Rings that the series has yet made. It also works well since, even if you aren't familiar with The Lord of the Rings, the illustration is frightful. Because all of those people are new, the Harfoots' plot has a clear edge over the rest when it comes to the prequel problem. The rest of the Harfoots are unknown in Tolkien's literature, and we honestly don't know what might happen to any of them, so anytime any Harfoot is in danger, it's that much more uncertain and exciting for the audience, even if we assume he's a figure we'll see again in a later iteration. Even the characters of the Harfoots themselves are becoming more complete and relatable people. They have been portrayed with some contradictions over the entire series. For instance, Largo's statement about remaining loyal to one another is lovely, but the Harfoots' attitudes from earlier episodes don't seem to support it. These are folks who, even if they broke their foot, would leave a friend to die. In this episode, though, we see them make a little more of an effort to support their buddies, and they also give us our newest Middle-earthian spin on a proverb. Largo threatens anybody who would hurt a hair on her foot rather than her head, because Harfoots and hobbits both have hairy feet. A great touch, really. Even the Harfoots themselves are developing into more likable and well-rounded individuals. They have been represented inconsistently at times throughout the series. Largo's statement about keeping faithful to one another is lovely, but it doesn't seem to represent the Harfoots' attitudes from earlier episodes. If they break their ankle, these people will leave a friend to die. However, in this episode, we see them take steps to support their companions a little bit more, and they also give us our newest Middle-earthian spin on a proverb. Largo threatens anybody who would hurt a hair on her foot instead of her head, because Harfoots, like hobbits, have hairy feet. It's an elegant touch. Who is Theo, a new area of potential suspicion that is introduced in this episode. He receives an elven sword from Galadriel. It doesn't immediately come to mind any other human characters from Tolkien's lore wearing elvish swords, so possibly he is a completely new character. Isildur had a brother named Anarion in Tolkien's literature, but he hasn't been depicted in the series. Theo may eventually join Elendil as a type of adopted son and take on the position instead, though that would make Anarion not a Numenor, which would be a big deviation from Tolkien's mythology. It is most likely that his role will go to Isildur's newly created sister, Irian. Although the path of of the season finale is not totally evident, towards the end of this terrible night of the soul, all the many plots appear to have certain directions. Prince Durin has been persuaded by Disa to continue searching for Mithril despite his father's reservations. The Southlands have been made into a living abode for Adar and the orcs. In order to warn him about probably Sauron, the Harfoots will track down probably Gandalf. Halbrand will be taken away by Galadriel to receive some elven medicine. The Numenors are departing for home, but they have plans to come back, especially since Elendil has been forced to leave both his kid and his beloved horse behind. Now, if someone would only bring up the possibility that it may be entertaining to create some really strong rings in the season finale, we could wrap up this first season cheerfully and eagerly anticipate season 2. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.